Welcome back to episode 4 of our TME Under the Hood VSNext series. We have made it to the WebUI and are ready to configure VSNext. Before we jump into it, let's review the relevant fields and sections of the WebUI so the configuration itself will run smoother. If you are joining this series for the first time, access your WebUI management by typing the address you set during the first-time wizard process in your browser URL line, and remember, what you are typing is basically the address of VS0. We installed this gateway to enable VSNext environment, so from here on, we operate within this environment, and as we discussed in episode 2, all environmental changes and additions are done through VS0. Insert the username and password and you're in. What you see on the screen is an overview of VS0, and at first glance you can see which version is installed, which kernel version is present, which blades are active, and the network configuration, what network interfaces there are, their IP addresses and status. Let's go over the important information you can get, starting with the network interface list from the main menu at the top left. In this section, we see all physical and logical interfaces of the appliance. Each interface has its own IP version 4 or version 6, subnet mask, link status, if it was assigned to a VS or vSwitch, and where it leads to. Moving up the menu to virtual systems, you will have the ID of each virtual system that was created automatically. So if you think back on what we have covered up till now, you will find, as expected, VS0 and VS500, the management virtual switch. Note that any new virtual system you will be creating from here on will be given in order from VS1, VS2, vSwitch 1 and 2 and so on. I bet you're wondering how many of them you can create. What is the maximum number? I will save you the experiment because it may be quite a long one. You could go up to 250, but in essence, it all depends on the host strength and resources. Creating virtual systems is easy, but you need to make sure you keep within the reasonable limits of the appliance you purchased to keep it effective and efficient. The status column shows the status of each virtual system. Type shows the object type of that system. The name shows the name we gave the VS in the smart dashboard and the associated interfaces to this virtual system. At the bottom, we have the task table that represents the tasks performed in our VSNext environment. We can see the table includes a lot of detailed information: time, task, name, who initiated the task, and whether it was done via command line interface, GAIA API or WebUI. The target system shows on which virtual system or switch the task ran on, whether it is completed or failed, details about the task, when it was created and started, queue of tasks if there are more than one ongoing, where the task stands, and the total time it took to process that task. Let's dig a little deeper into each machine and see the details available for the primary virtual system VS0. There is an interfaces list where we can add interfaces to any VS or vSwitch, connect an interface to a vSwitch, or remove interfaces altogether. Advanced settings cannot be changed for VS0 since it may lock you out of your device, and for other virtual systems you will be able to change the core assignment only. The IDs are unique, and though you can set them manually rather than have the system do it automatically, setting a manual ID to any VS or vSwitch must be done at the creation stage. Core assignment refers to the allocation of CPU cores to different Core XL firewall instances. That means, for example, for IPv4 Core XL firewall instances, the number of instances you can configure is determined by the number of CPU cores on the security gateway or Scalable Platform Security Group. So, changing the core assignment is done by changing the instances for IPv4 or IPv6. Note that for IPv6 Core XL Firewall instances, the number of instances must be less than or equal to the number of IPv Core XL Firewall instances. The number of IPv6 instances may be 0. IPv6 Core XL Firewall instances are only enabled if an IPv6 address is configured for the virtual system. Opening the vSwitch window, the settings are a little bit different. We can change the name, the interface of the management traffic, or see the interfaces list and to which virtual systems those interfaces are connected to. In advanced settings, we have only the option to change the ID, but as we mentioned earlier, there is no option to change the ID after the creation of the virtual system. If you want to add a new virtual system, select a virtual gateway from the Add button on the top left. A new window will open and you will need to add whichever interfaces you want from the list, connect each interface to the relevant vSwitch, and configure the secure internal communication, as you are basically creating another gateway. And as any gateway, it will require a management connection and hence go through the standard process of establishing SIC. The section at the bottom, select an interface from the table above or set IP address, allows you to configure the management interface of this VS and its IP address. You can see the default management switch 500 that is automatically assigned at creation. I have mentioned at the first episode that VSNext allows management of any virtual system from any management entity, so this is where you would change it to suit your network configuration. Now, set the management interface that will be connected to the management switch, the IP address, mask length, default gateway, and as we are in the creation stage, the advanced settings section, the option to set the manual ID is available. The last setting before the new virtual system is initialized is the core assignment for IPv4 and IPv6. The next object we will set up is a virtual switch. Go to the Add button again, and this time select Virtual Switch. Set the name of this vSwitch, the relevant physical interfaces it will connect to, and set the ID manually if needed, or disable this option and an automatically generated ID will be assigned to it. Since VSNext is based on ElasticXL and can also run within a Maestro cluster, the option below Virtual Systems in the main menu, Cluster Management, may be also relevant. In this section, you will find the physical appliance the virtual systems are hosted in and its site and ID. To learn more about ElasticXL clusters, please refer to the TME Under the Hood series we released earlier. From a virtual system point of view, since VSNext is tightly linked, any new configuration or change in one member will automatically replicate itself on other cluster members as well, saving time and resources. This brings us to our starting point, the Overview panel. After creating other virtual systems, if you want to perform any action on one of the others, use the Virtual System drop-down menu at the very top of the screen and choose the one you want to work on. Note that this drop-down menu is for virtual systems only, not vSwitches. Now, we are ready to start our first VSNext configuration exercise. As promised, we will do it 3 times, each time showcasing a different method. Checkpoint understands the value of enabling the security admin to choose whichever method he or she are most comfortable with. Part of making this innovative technology efficient in time and cost is making it accessible to security personnel who are the key players in this process. So join me in the next episode where we will start with configuring VSNext through the WebUI. Thank you for watching and see you for episode 5.